They landed in a circular country consisting of 8 mountain ranges radiating from the center like spokes of a wheel, encircled by more white snow peaks. The goddess explained that at the center of this mandala land was where his lama resided. They came to a vast lake which they crossed by means of the lowest of 3 bridges. They went to the east side of the lake to find a place in the rock out of which spiritual warriors could come to aid the king of Shambhala in time of need. They then visited a turquoise palace set in a great meadow on the south side of the lake. Nearby grazed a blue mystic horse, that which the warrior king of Shambhala will ride when he defeats the enemies of the religion. The horse was, in fact, an emanation of the Bodhisattva boundless love. The goddess then mentally guided Kalmtrul Rinpoche to the west side of the lake and to another great palace. On a throne at its center sat his lama, an old man. Suddenly the old lama melted into his true inner form, that of a four-arm boundless love, a beatific young man holding a wish-fulfilling jewel. Kamtrul Rinpoche, or rather his awareness and subtle body, received many spiritual teachings and prophecies concerning Tibet from the deity Lama, and expressed a desire to remain in this paradise. But boundless love insisted to the contrary, saying that Rinpoche must bring his newly gained wisdom back for the benefit of others. Rinpoche then returned along the path that he and the goddess had come, and after retaking his gross physical form, he suddenly woke from his dream. Kamtrul Rinpoche's dreams journey took him to the sacred Pure Land of Shambhala, a place where the Kalachakra Tantra, Tibetan Buddhism's universal teaching on natural philosophy and focus of Tibetan religion, had been first preserved and then, according to legend, spread throughout Inner Asia. It is, in fact, in Shambhala where the greatest expression of the Tibetan mandalic view of reality, the Tungkor Kyankor, the Wheel of Time mandala, sits in three-dimensional form before the palace of its king at the center of this fabled mandala-shaped land. In Shambhala, boundless love had transmitted to Kamtrul Rinpoche's subtle body-mind certain essential teachings, making Rinpoche unwilling to leave the ideal realm of Shambhala. But boundless love prevailed, knowing full well the need for Rinpoche to take the Bodhisattva warrior's path and return with his wisdom to the world of samsara. That is what Milarepa and Gautama, the warrior twins, and the dreamer had finally to understand. After one enters the mandala and acquires its wisdoms and energies, one must leave its ideal state and return to the world at large in order to share its benefits with others. After Kamtrul Rinpoche's body-mind was dissolved into its most subtle form, he was conducted by the goddess throughout her psychic nervous system and into its 5 energy centers. He was reborn out of her larger body-mind's womb and conducted by her less corporeal emanation, the smaller goddess figure, through the sky and over many lands before descending into Shambhala. Shambhala's mountains and valleys were in the shape of an 8-petaled lotus, a mandala. Within an inner circle of mountains sat a vast lake. They crossed it on the lowest of 3 bridges, signifying Rinpoche's having attained at the time only the first level of understanding of the spiritual path. Lama and goddess came upon the mystic horse, possibly signifying the power of the circulatory winds to move the consciousness along the subtle channels of the psychic nervous system, just as the wind moves the wind horse imprinted prayer flags in a stiff mountain breeze. Such a magical horse is similar to the one that was ridden by the great spiritual warrior Gesar of Ling. The goddess explained that the horse incarnates boundless love and will be ridden by a future king of Shambhala in conquering the forces of ignorance that imperil Shambhala and its precious teachings. The particular king will be an incarnation of the Bodhisattva transcendent wisdom, Jambayang. Thus, the spiritual warrior will combine the powers and understanding of the Bodhisattvas of wisdom and compassion. On reaching the west side of the lake, they entered the palace of Kamtrul Rinpoche's true teacher, who was none other than boundless love. Similarly, Tibetans generally consider the king of Shambhala to be an incarnation of Kalachakra, and his palace to be the mandala of Kalachakra. The same palace and reality found in the center of the Kalachakra mandala and ritually visualized in the center of the practitioner's heart. Indeed, the 8-petaled lotus envisioned at the core of the mandala the shape of Shambhala, and the psychic center at the heart are all expressions of the same universal fourfold circular pattern. The Wheel of Time Mandala. Since envisioning these mandala forms is a rather difficult task for most people, the yoginis and lamas have devised visual aids for the purpose. One can be found in the Tungkor Lakhang, the Kalachakra god's house, shrine room in the Patala Palace, situated at the heart of the terrestrial mandala called Lhasa. It is a room-sized gold and silver three-dimensional mandala construction, yet it hardly begins to capture the attributes of the transparent, rainbow-lit deity's palace at the heart of the Pure Land of Kalachakra, as it floats on a huge crossed thunderbolt of wind above the mountain at the center of the universe. Most people's imaginations must be stimulated by more conventionally, conveniently available mandalas in painted scroll, tanga form. Spiritual draftsman's schematics, Tanga mandalas magnetize the mind into exploring its own mysteries, but the most compelling visualization of the reality of the Wheel of Time can be found only in the great sand mandala assembled for each Kalachakra rite of empowerment or initiation. The Tibetan mandala is often large, the Kalachakra sand mandala being up to 3 yards in diameter. Sand mandalas may be done on a wooden platform or on the ground. The Kalachakra or Wheel of Time sand mandala is made on a wooden platform following proportional guidelines, snapped on with a chalked string and drawn by compass. In the past, such a mandala was made entirely from powdered sand, generally collected at various hot springs, where the concentrated minerals leached from the earth had stained the fine silica crystals with vivid colors. Nowadays, deliberately dyed stone powders are used, but some mandalas are made with other materials including flower petals, precious jewels, and dyed rice grains. From the point of view of the accumulation of karmic merit, powdered precious jewels are best. The monks work at each cardinal direction and from the center outward. They work this way for 2 reasons. First, and most practically, it is the only way to execute a large, symmetrical image in a balanced, proportional manner. But more to the point, the reality of the mandala is the center from which all emanates. The 4 quarters and the outer periphery are aspects of the center, and the mandala's process of creation is necessarily linked to its symbolic form and deepest meaning. The sand is applied by scraping serrated ridges cut into the side of a narrow metal cone. The cone contains a reservoir of sand. In the process, a steady stream of individual particles spills out of the pointed tip of the cone. This provides the mandala's extremely fine detail. Despite its extraordinary precision of design, the Wheel of Time sand construction is still the grossest way of experiencing the mandala universe of Kalachakra. To experience the Wheel of Time mandala most effectively, one must envision it with the powers of the imagination. The mind's eye sees an edifice like a square wedding cake with several circular layers at its base. The mandala's palace and grounds sit upon layers of the primal elements and energies as it floats in space above the cosmic mountain at the universe's center. The square palace sits upon a yellow disk of earth. This sits upon a disk of water, which is white or blue. Supporting these is a pink or orange-red fire disk, and underpinning these is a gray-blue or black disk of wind. Between the fire and wind levels are visualized 8 great cemeteries, carnal or cremation grounds, inhabited by fierce protectors, which are signified by 8-spoked wheels placed at the cardinal and semi-cardinal points. Below and beyond all of these is a thin green disk signifying material space. Continuing outward, the mind arrives at 2 rings of protection that are found in all Tibetan mandalas. A wall of thunderbolt scepters with their diamond-hard nature and lightning-like power rises on the green circle of space. Beyond it is a rainbow-hued mountain of fire ring, a great wall of heat and blazing light. The Wheel of Time mandala is the most complex of commonly encountered Tibetan psychrocosmograms. It is actually a multiple mandala having 4 or 5, depending on how you count them, stepped residences for the 722 deity emanations of the male-female tutelary lord of the Wheel of Time and mother of diversity, Kalachakra / Mata, but it must be clearly understood that the emanations, as well as the mandala palace itself, are all identical to the father-mother deities who embodied the diverse processes of time and space. In the end, the paired deities, their emanations and environs, are expressions of the all-pervading emptiness of the void. Let's continue the wedding cake analogy to describe the central part of the mandala. The mandala cake's upper stories are square, not round like the elemental bases on which they sit. The square towers of the palace have imposing doorways, opening to the four cardinal directions, with stairs leading up to each successive level. The palace's walls and everything contained within them decorates the deity and deities alike are composed of rainbow light. While these forms must appear totally real to the mind's eye, they are really composed of the mind's light of awareness. Each level's ground plan is color coordinated with each of Kala Chakra's four directional faces. At a deeper level of understanding, each direction and color is cued to a psychophysical aspect of the ideal being called Kala Chakra, who, in union with his complementary aspect, Vishvamata, it stands at the apex of the mandala's axis mundi palace. This four-sided pyramidal mountain of the spirit consists in turn of four mandala levels called bottom to top, the body, speech, mind, and bliss or gnosis mandalas. Using the well-developed and controlled powers of the imagination, the consciousness of the yogini practitioner enters the grounds of this universal palace, temple, pyramid ziggurat. There it encounters the glowing and moving spiritual architecture of the body-mind of Kala Chakra. On the ground floor is the mandala expressing the body of Kala Chakra. In it reside various power beings on the earth, sky, and the natural cycles of reality. The latter include 360 deities of the days of the year, 12 lunar months with 30 days each. This level embodies the external aspect of the teachings and of phenomena that make up the so-called outer Kala Chakra. These include the cyclic movements of the planets, stars, sun, and moon, seasons, times of day, the tides, cycles of human history and civilization, and the natural ecology of world eons with their cycles of growth and decay. Tibetan astrology, the most comprehensive in the world, is codified according to the principles of outer Kala Chakra. The yogini's consciousness enters the eastern door of the body mandala and sees all this. The consciousness climbs the stairs past walls composed of transparent layers of variously colored light up to the speech mandala, which is also composed of rainbow-colored light. The speech mandala is composed of more subtle winds and mind's light. Here reside 80 divinities bedecked in jewels and living in perpetual enjoyment. Their evocative forms glow with an energy associated with speech. The knowledge and processes associated with the speech mandala are called inner Kala Chakra. Inner Kala Chakra relates to the cycles of thought and energy manifesting within that wonderful but gross expression of the cosmos that we identify as the body-mind. In addition to the more physical laws of blood, bile, lymph, and oxygen, and carbon dioxide, our bodies are powered by flows of subtle energy winds along equally subtle psychic channels. These subtle psychic winds are the vehicles for carrying the mind's light. Inner Kala Chakra teaches how this complex body-mind operates and its connection with outer Kala Chakra. The main expression of this level of the Wheel of Time Tantra is the Tibetan system of healing. The yogini's consciousness continues up the stairs past walls of colored light to the mind mandala. The doors are guarded by fierce-looking but compassionately motivated tutelaries. Inside are male and female bodhisattvas. They are joined by offering goddesses who provide them with the finest things in the universe. This is the realm of alternate Kala Chakra. Here the body-mind's winds are channeled most effectively during the yogic process of psychophysical transformation. Normally, the channels and winds of the psychic nervous system are blocked by the effects of one's individual samsaric state of being. The winds are stuck in two subsidiary channels and are unable to fully enter the central channel of one's subtle body and reach its 5 energy centers, envisioned as circles or wheels. In order to get these male and female winds to properly properly mix, it is necessary to bring to bear the powers of the mind. The task is to mentally, with some physical yoga, create a purified body to serve as the proper basis for supporting a mind clearly knowing the nature of things. This knowledge and associated practice is the alternate Kala chakra. Through it, one reconciles the mandala of outer and inner forces, body and speech, compassing the conventional reality of the cosmos. The imagination has now reached the stairway leading to the fourth story, or gnosis mandala. In it are united the states of pure awareness and great bliss. The former is the purified awareness, knowing the nature of the void; the latter, the blissful method of coming to know it. Together they are the ultimate expression of the two-in-one unity. There are two levels to the Gnosis Mandala. In the pure awareness sublevel reside 16 Tantric Buddhas, 4 on each side. At the center are Buddhas of the Eastern Thunderbolt family, which is the Buddha family from which Kala Chakra emanates. The uppermost sublevel of Great Bliss has an 8-petaled green lotus at its center. On each petal stands a consort goddess embodying an essential psychophysical energy. At the center stands Kala Chakra / Vishvamata, the father-mother embodiment of the emptiness of the void, and the progenitor by emanation of the other 720 ideal beings residing in the total mandala. Since Kala Chakra and Vishvamata are sporting in sexual union, this part of the mandala is named after the similar great bliss that comes from finally achieving knowledge, emptiness of the true nature of things. An accomplished practitioner can visualize the deity materializing out of space and appearing to float before his or her eyes. This is the first step in developing what is called the pride of the deity, to develop a deep identification with the ideal being state. However, one must eventually fuse one's qualities of thought, speech, and action with those of the deity. Advanced practitioners are said to be able to transform their body-minds into that of the tutelaries, and, through the powers of the imagination, to actually see out through the deity's eyes. This is the process of mind that one need to bring to the mandala of Kala Chakra. Being a semi-fierce tutelary of the Eastern Thunderbolt Buddha family, Kala Chakra is of the same psychophysical stuff as the unshakable one, Mekyopa, and the diamond being Dorje Sempa. Kala Chakra is also the fusion of the Lord of the Wheel of Time and the Mother of Diversity. She is the diversity of form, she is the cycles of time. United, they comprise the continuum of and beyond space and time. During the Kala Chakra Tantric initiation, a rite known as seeing the mandala is held for all in attendance. Once the outer forms of the mandala and of the central deity pair have been introduced, the Lama leads the initiates through the mandala by way of their imaginations. By this point in the initiation, described in Part 4, the participants are visualizing themselves as children of Kala Chakra and are thereby empowered to enter their mandala. They enter mentally through the eastern door of the mandala. They pass through its 4 quadrants and climb each successive mandala level. At each quadrant, the initiate transforms into an appropriate Tantric Buddha, finally returning to the eastern doorway before exiting the mandala. This process of becoming acquainted with the mandala finds a Navajo parallel in the experience of the dreamer, who, after witnessing the rituals and teachings of the tutelaries, joined 4 pairs of male and female yeis on their cross of logs for their circular journey around the sacred lake. Each pair of holy people, like the Tantric Buddha pairs encountered in the 4 quarters of the Wheel of Time mandala, embodies aspects of the knowledge and energy comprising its mandalic reality. The circular movement in both mandala experiences is also critical. The dreamer was psychophysically empowered, made holy, by his close identification with the deities of the log's 4 directions. The effect was enhanced with each successive rotation of the cross of logs, four in all, around the sacred lake. Similarly, the initiate into the Wheel of Time is fully conducted around its sacred precincts and introduced to its deities. Just as the dreamer enters the cross or whirling logs from the eastern limb, so too do the Buddhist initiates imagine entering the Wheel of Time mandala through its eastern doorway to begin the process of empowerment. And whether Navajo or Tibetan, after taking this journey into the circle of the spirit, the neophyte returns to his or her ordinary Eastern reality as a more integrated being, empowered with the holy energy of Dayin or Wang. For both traditions, the sand mandala is the field of action in which this psychophysical transformation takes place. By means of the mandala experience, the imagination is encoded with all the information necessary to assemble an ideal state of body-mind. Once the tutelaries are called into the sand mandalas, they act upon the individual as effectively as if they were corporeal beings, no doubt even more effectively, composed as they are of the stuff of mind. By being more subtle in nature, they are, in fact, more real. Although the great sand mandalas of the Tibetans and Navajos are very much a total experience in themselves, they are only focal points of a larger sacred event. This event is the closest approximation of the ideal reality that can be created out of this ordinary reality. Through this human-made experience, the journey of a spiritual heroine is created and taken by the initiate. We in the modern world call this totally involving context of symbols, expressions, and carefully managed actions by the inadequate terms ceremony, ritual, rite, and the like. Tibetans and Navajos know the mandala journey to be one and the same with their own paths through life. For them there is no separation of self and cosmos. We are all divine, only we have not yet fully realized our innate divinity. It is through their respective spiritual scientific process, in which the sand mandala is the altar, that Navajos and Tibetans are able to realize their seamless unity with the state of beauty and the void. Through such rites of transformation, one is reborn, restored, transformed into one's own ideal state, the best version of oneself. These form the focus of the fourth principle of the circle of the spirit, becoming. Navajo chanter. We call upon these directional powers for protection: bear, lightning, snake, and big wind. Tibetan Lama. In our protection ceremony, we call upon the protectors of the four directions as well. Navajo chanter. Maybe we should team up, laughingly. I respect the same things he respects. Excerpt of a meeting in Santa Fe, New Mexico, September 1989. Find your center and you will be healed. Taoist proverb. Part 4. Becoming. Sacred Rites of Transformation. Orchestrating the Sacred Journey. The beauty of the rite is the beauty of one's essential nature. By participation in the rite, by uniting the mind with that beauty, by walking the way of the God, one becomes profoundly composed. The way of the God is the way to the seat of energy within the soul. Joseph Campbell. The first three principles of the circle of the spirit attempt to outline what Joseph Campbell so eloquently called those lessons of the way to human wholeness, which for millenniums have been held the most treasured possessions of man. But there is a fourth movement to the circle's symphony. This fourth principle of becoming wholly describes the practical method of personally embodying the first three principles through participating in the rite of transformation. According to the Navajo and Tibetan paradigms, all beings can attain everlasting life, or Buddhahood, through understanding and fully merging with the reality or the void. But this state can be approached only by means of a well-programmed ritual event, which is the rite of transformation. Ritual is an expression of the ideal reality, utilizing energy and elements of the ordinary world. It is a programmed pathway for restoring or developing a person to fullness potential by jointly harnessing the transformative powers of the sacred symbol and the energy of the body-mind. These come together in its web of empowering acts, songs, prayers, and guided visions. Ritual recreates the pathway along which ancient heroes and heroines-to-be had taken their spiritual journeys. It is often described in Navajo and Tibetan teachings as a rainbow-lit trail into an ideal reality in which the heroines learned how to generate spiritual beauty within themselves and how to radiate it without. Since the mundane aspects of our life's journey keep our awareness quite busy, we need to stimulate and coordinate the sacred side of our path by means of effective ritual techniques. Many cultures still possess these most precious of human spiritual systems, but the Tibetans and Navajos have fashioned versions of them that have particularly universal appeal. Taking the great journey into holiness and returning with a newfound awareness is a blissful but sometimes terrifying experience. To realize the totality of the universe within one's personal mandala, to experience one's own universal nature, is nothing short of a life and death struggle between the limited ego and the limitless spirit. To begin the process of becoming holy by means of sacred ritual, from this point on it will simply be called becoming. Tibetans and Navajos seek the guidance of a person of wisdom, integrity, and personal power. The Navajo are led on the sacred path by a rigorously trained master, spiritual facilitator, whom they call ha'atali or chanter. The term singer is also used in English translation. Only non-Navajo call them medicine men. Tibetans seek guidance from lamas or tulkus. Lamas and tulkus are believed to be reincarnated human manifestations of highly realized practitioners, bodhisattvas or Buddhas. Having the mind stream of enlightenment, they are rigorously trained from childhood to reveal their innate Buddha nature and to become master spiritual facilitators for those who wish to follow the heroic path of the Buddha. Chanter and Lama are their respective culture's supreme master of ceremonies. As the Taoist would say, they unify heaven and earth. Standing as they do at the juncture of the two realities, these masters of ceremonies point the way to others into the circle of the spirit. During some rites, the Navajo chanter becomes invested with great spiritual power, diyin, and in fact becomes deified. Accordingly, he must follow very strict rules of behavior during the rite. In 1937, Gladys Reichard described the shooting way chanter's deification and patient's transformation in these words. The chanter for the time being is a god. Singing often makes him the most powerful of all the war gods, slayer of alien gods, monster slayer himself. Similarly, he continues, the one sung over is not only a handsome Navajo woman with a smiling face, but rather as the ministrations of the chanters progress, one and another of the holy people. In the case of the Lama, the transfer of spiritual power, Wang, is even more pronounced. During the Shedur Ghost Severance Rite, see Appendix 5, Two Rites of Exorcism, Lama Yeshe Dorje Rinpoche became transformed into the great Black Dakini in order to purify the body-mind of a patient. Likewise, during grand tantric initiation ceremonies, such as the Wheel of Time Empowerment, the Lama transforms himself by means of rigorous mental procedures into the tutelary deity Kala Chakra, and he is completely accepted as such by the initiates, since informed belief is essential to the process of ritually transferring spiritual power. The Lama and chanter facilitate the patient practitioner's transformative ritual journey by using a universal vision that had been first perceived by a visionary at some intermediate time in the past. The vision is couched in a narrative by the journey down to skeptical Westerners as myth. Once a private vision, it has now become transformed through its universal appeal and vivid descriptions of the ideal reality into a public vision. Through the resources of the rite of transformation, the Lama and chanter lead their disciples' patients into a private turned public vision of the journey of an ancient spiritual heroine. We know the code to this process. It was translated for us by Joseph Campbell in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. 1. The heroine strives to enter the primordial ground of the ideal world. 2. One of the sacred knowledge and divine qualities are attained. The heroine becomes initiated. 3. The heroine must return from the bliss and perfection of the myth's ideal reality, bringing back its ideal wisdom and power into the real world in order to enrich other people's lives. 4. Only then can the heroine achieve his or her final state of holiness or peace. It is possible for Navajos and Tibetans to embark on such a journey because they see the world in a particularly holistic and vivid way. They are willing citizens of a naturally ordered, power-filled world of the marvelous. They know, too, that an inner journey must be taken to achieve the ideal state of being. In this sense, traditional Tibetans and Navajos are inherently visionary dreamers and shamans. Some individuals are more skilled or gifted than others, but all see things in the same transformative manner, and this process of becoming ideal is set into motion by their rites of transformation. The architecture of the rite of transformation consists of ritual reenactments of episodes in a public, traditional transformative vision. After ritually recreating the ideal world reality, then retaking the first visionary journey into its realm, the Navajo or Tibetan returns reintegrated, whole and holy into the real world. The rite of transformation. When the rite of transformation begins, the process of becoming, it is properly called initiation. When it rebalances body-mind with cosmos, it is a rite of healing. Regardless of avowed purpose, the process is the same. The Navajo Chantway healing rite and the Tibetan Tantric initiation deal with psychophysical empowerment. In the former, called Ha'atal Chantway, one becomes sung into beauty, Hozho, and imbued with holy power, Diyin. Similarly, when Tibetans take initiation into one of many lineages of knowledge and practice, Gyud, Tantra, they participate in what they call a grand empowerment, Wangchen. In the Buddhist grand empowerment, there is a transfer of enlightened psychophysical power, Wangkur. The rite is often simply called Wang, referring to the wisdom energy of the deity being acquired by the initiates. For the Tibetan to become otherwise spiritually empowered requires amassing in the course of living the luminous Wangthang steps of power, that which Trungpa Rinpoche called authentic presence. Acquiring Wang power by means of positive thoughts, words, and deeds leads eventually to oneness with the Great Mirror, clarity and emptiness of the void. In this way, integration with the cosmos comes through pursuing involvement in the affairs of the ordinary world in a holy manner, especially when set in motion by the transformative process of initiation. Since for the Navajo the purpose of existence lies in striving for everlasting life according to the principles of beauty, it is necessary to develop Diyin, the psychophysical knowledge power that distinguishes a holy being, Diyin Dine, from an ordinary human being, Nahoka Dine. The mark of possibly having achieved the state of a holy being is death by old age, death without bad thoughts, words, or actions. This is in stark contrast with the person who has not accumulated Diyin power and is habitually out of order with the beauty of the cosmos and its elemental energies. The latter state inevitably results in physical and mental afflictions, disorders, and untimely death. This is the state of life that the Lamas call suffering. The Chantway and Tantric paths are the means to initiate, guide, and reinforce a lifelong process of becoming healed, whole, and holy. But to purify the body-mind effectively so it can take on the wisdom energy of the ideal beings requires that one experience a vivid symbolic death and rebirth by way of the initiation. There, imperfect actions, expressions, and thoughts of the individual become dissolved in a process of spiritual death. The songs, prayers, ritual acts, and the public vision behind it all are orchestrated by chanter or lama to stimulate the powers of the imagination to shed its imperfect body mind. This sloughing off process is usually a painful one, but it must be undergone by all. Indeed, woe to those who do not meet their little deaths during their lifetimes. Death in service of life, one may feel a little shiver at the mention of death. Death is, after all, the great unspeakable fear in the West. Its experience is believed by most of us to be a state of pain and darkness, and for those with such a negative view of it, it may well turn out to be that kind of experience. But those same energies of dissolution can be of service to the development of mental light, wisdom, and happiness during one's lifetime. To effect this is not an easy or comfortable experience. One's subtle body-mind must be cleansed of its imbalances, self-defeating behaviors, and obstructions to its own ideal nature. Spiritual death, and it is the spiritual heroine who meets his or her own monsters head-on and fights them to the death of the imperfect, immature, and ignorant self. Death and dissolution are the spiritual hero and heroine's allies. The death of the imperfect, ordinary self leads to rebirth of an ideal one. For most of us who lack the motivation and insight of a Milarepa or a dreamer, the rebirth of the best version of ourselves must be experienced indirectly at first, in the form of a guided ritual event. This is initiation and spiritual healing. It is the programmed embarkation, dangerous journey, and arrival at the ideal state. Then comes the return journey to the ordinary state as a reintegrated and empowered individual. Spiritual death leading to rebirth for all is the true goal of the spiritual hero and heroine on their journey into the circle of the spirit, and ritual is our ordinary reality's best attempt at explaining and directing the process of the journey. Having taken the transformative rites guided journey, the initiate needs to fully internalize its teachings and apply them assiduously to his or her daily life. Habitually seeing ordinarily reality in an ideal way on a daily basis renews the person spiritually. The goal is the journey to the goal. Because such intellectual knowledge is too abstract by itself to effect the desired transformation, the body-mind must be enticed, captured, and moved by expressive stimuli comprising the rite of transformation. To this end, the Tibetans and Navajos construct their compelling sand mandalas, images of power, to serve as the focal point in the transformative process, and they surround it all with a consecrated environment, sacred songs and prayers, breaths of power, and ritual acts, deeds of power. Breaths of power. In addition to the term wang, power, Tibetans also call their tantric initiations lung, meaning wind or breath. There it refers to transmission of sacred words, sounds that bear both knowledge and elemental energies. For the Navajo, the transformative rite is called a sing. Songs and prayers bear the elemental sounds out of which reality and beauty arise, understandably surrounding and permeating the participants in every rite of transformation is an envelope of sacred sound. It is not really music, song, or poetry, nor is it noise. It is a fundamental oral pattern expressing, as best as its makers can, the energy of life and the awareness of mind. It is patterned in such a way as to effect a deep and lasting change in the body-mind of the initiate. Expressivity, speech for Tibetans, voice for Navajos, is the link between the subtle realm of mind and the gross physical form of body realm. Its creative energy is the mortar that holds together the edifice of body-mind. Navajos and Tibetans constantly recreate their ideal states of body-mind through visualizations, chants, and prayers, and artistic work. Although their expressivity has features in common with what we call art and the aesthetic experience, theirs is not art for art's sake, but primarily art for spirit's sake. Sacred sounds are considered energy, which makes them valuable tools in Tibetan and Navajo ritual experiences, or expressions of their respective sacred visions. Both traditions have composed compelling melodies, special vocables, and holy words that both express and elicit the ideal qualities to be acquired in the ritual journey. At the foundation of the Tibetan theory of sound energy are specialized seed syllables combined into vocalizations called nagad, mantra in Sanskrit. Tibetan monks, especially at tantric initiations and deity invocation ceremonies, intone long series of mantras. The seed syllables composing the mantras are pre-linguistic, consciousness-altering sounds meant to evoke the qualities of various tutelary deities within the chanter's and hearer's mind streams. The lamas tell us that these combinations of various tones, pulses, and syllables will unlock in one's consciousness enlightened wisdom energies that are of the same nature as the vibrations of sounds. Mantra is the bridge between the subtle body and its ideal consciousness, and the mantra's repetitions are like the stitches of thread connecting pieces of the fabric of body-mind. The Navajo sing cycles of hymns with interrelated text during their chantway rites. Hundreds of such chants are sung from memory during a rite of several days. Such songs, consisting of sacred words and special vocables, are sacred, so sacred that it is a very rare Navajo chanter who will allow them to be recorded. Their sacredness comes from the use of sacred words. The sanctity of song was beautifully expressed by a Navajo philosopher. During a chantway rite, it's no longer me singing, it's someone else. There's a direct link with the holy people. We're taught that we have the deity Nisizini within us. It's fathomless, but it's activated in sacred songs and even speech and gestures. I have a definite sense of transportation. It's no longer me. It's one voice with the others who are singing. It has such power when you're singing. Way back, everything was sung, say the elders. Everything was a song. For the Navajo, words together with mind create reality. Not surprisingly, the upward-reaching way describes each successive world reality during the emergence process as sa'ad, word or speech. Carl Luckert, a scholar of Navajo religion, alluded to this interplay of speech, mind, and reality in describing his own initiation into the spiritual practices of the Navajo. In speaking of Talking God, he said that what he learned of his major tutelary's essence could best be described by the first sentence of the Gospel according to John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The importance of speech to the process of attaining beauty is eloquently expressed in the following excerpt of a hymn from the Blessing Way. Give me the speech of everlasting life, of according to beauty. Sa'anagai bikehozho. Beauty radiates around me. As far as I gaze around me, earth extends its beauty. Wherever I go, beauty radiates around me. Wherever I go, beauty radiates around me. The psychophysical power of breath is celebrated everywhere in Navajo ritual poetry. The beautiful and detailed text of Navajo chantway prayers and hymns are effectively enhanced by percussive repetition. With each repetition of a chorus or verse line, the visualization behind the song unfolds. The great nightway prayer to the Thunderer, who is pollen and dark cloud, is a superb example of this technique. See pages 209 through 213. Similarly, consider the Buddhist offering mandala text. See Appendix 2. The use of rhythmic, incremental repetition is highly developed in Navajo sacred song circles. Each song expands by small increments upon descriptions of stages of the transformative process. The following group of such closely related songs from the Coyote Way vividly spell out the journey of reintegration as the once sung over's awareness slowly returns to beauty. The repetitive quality of the direct and simple text is like a hammer on copper, reforming the body-mind with every sonorous blow. A unifying element in the journeying process of this chant is the repetitive phrase, "in the presence of the sun." Here the sun's light and power appear very similar to the concept of clear light mind in the Tibetan Tantric tradition. With my mind I walk in the presence of the sun. With my mind I walk. With my mind I walk. I am looking for my mind in the presence of the sun. I am looking for my mind. I am looking for my mind. I have found my mind in the presence of the sun. I have found my mind. I have found my mind. I am bringing back my mind. I am reviving my mind. Now my mind is walking with me. Now my mind is remade for me. Now my mind returns with me. Now I am sitting with my mind. To the Navajos, song and speech are much more than products of breath. They are a material form of the psychic wind permeating all things. Navajos express the relationship between the cycles of universal breath and the processes of mind in many ways. Perhaps the best example is encountered in a brief act after a long night of songs and ceremony, usually the rite's last night. The chanter directs the one sung over to go outside the hogan and breathe in the dawn 4 times. The person knows that what is breathed is not only air but the beauty that comes from the ideal beings and energies residing in the dawn. Likewise, when the Tibetan yogi creates out of his or her inner wind energies the subtle body of a deity such as Kalachakra, the deity's enlightened state of mind is carried on the body-mind subtle breezes. The energy of this primal unity is expressed and contained in the most basic of Buddhist mantras, Om Ahum. Om may be thought of as the universal breath of emptiness, while Ah is the personal breath. Hum unifies the two. According to Tantric philosophy, Om responds and emerges from the crown of the head, at energy center connected with the body. Ah is appropriately associated with the throat or speech center, while Hum emanates from the heart center, the seat of mind. Since Tantra recognizes that the energies upon which the awareness resides are of the nature of breath, the mantric sound is directly linked with the nature of consciousness and bodily processes. Deeds of power. The sacred sounds of prayer and chant fit into a larger structure, which is the multisensory experience of the rite. In order to explore the architecture of Navajo and Tibetan rites of transformation, it is important to know how they view the purpose of their ritual process. The rites of Tibetans and Navajos naturally fall into 3 groups. First, there are rites that affirm universal harmony, maintaining the individual in beauty and auspiciousness, the ideal state of body, speech, and mind. These rites usually involve the most life-affirming of the divinities. The fundamental Navajo way for affirming holiness and maintaining it in one's life is Hozhooji, the blessing way. Blessing way teachings revolve around the creation of sentient beings and the structuring of the ideal cosmos. Central to it is the great goddess principle, embodied in Changing Woman and her association with the sun-bearer. Blessing Way has many branches that are adapted to corn planting, house blessing, and female puberty. Unifying them all is the wish for goodness, long life, health, good fortune, and the tasting of corn pollen to nourish the divine state outside and within the participants. In Tibet, this role is commonly filled by the Tsewang, long life empowerment rite. It is associated with wishes for a long, happy, and healthy life for an individual. Its most common forms invoke the powers of 2 closely related deities associated with the life principle, boundless life, Tsepame, and white Tara Dolkar, the Tibetan mother of nurture. In visualizing these deities, the body-mind is restored into equilibrium and empowered to ward off obstacles to its vitality and longevity. The rite is often given at the end of tantric initiations, to which, for the long life of the lama, it is also held yearly for the health of a community. The people are given special liquids and pills of barley flour that have been blessed by the lama and are imbued with the longevity deity's power. The second class of rites also restore vitality and well-being, but by the most fiercely powerful means. They are utilized in cases when the obstructing energies or beings that are afflicting an individual will not respond to more placid, prophylactic measures such as the blessing way or long life empowerment. To counteract these obstacles, the fiercest of power beings are called upon through visualizations, chants, prayers, and ritual actions. The Navajo call these rites evil ways. They include such powerful procedures as the enemy way, ghost way, and sucking way. There are also shorter protection rituals that invoke power beings such as snake or bear. These rites dispel the effects of harmful energies generated by monsters, Navajo witches, and insensitive non-Navajos. See Appendix 4 for more on protective powers. Tibetans likewise have numerous rites for powerfully dispelling the effects of dawn, obstacle-generated energies. See Appendix 4. These include rites for calling upon protectors, such as the Great Black One, Nagpo Chenpo, the glorious goddess Palden Lamo, and the five embodied kings, Konga Gyalpo. The rite of severance of ghostly influence, Shedur, and the extremely ancient rites of sucking out weapons sent into one's body through black magic. Both cultures recognize the periodic need for such forceful forms of prophylaxis, such as poison taken in measured doses can become the most wonderful of medicines, but it is the third family of universal rites that is of most interest here. These are elaborate rites of transformation for initiating the body-mind onto the path toward the ideal reality. Through these procedures, the participants break free of habitual patterns by journeying into the sacred circle and returning empowered. The Navajos call these elaborate healing and initiation rites holy ways. Tibetans call them grand empowerments. Such a rite is prescribed when one is not in synchrony with the cosmos, which is almost always. By becoming initiated on the path toward wholeness, one begins a lifelong practice according to the procedures introduced in the rite and explained in its spiritual history. The heroic spiritual journey is the basic code of the rite of transformation. The first part of the rite, the quest, to use a European metaphor, vanquishes external and internal obstacles and purifies the body-mind. Once this is done, the actual empowerment can proceed. The energies, the sacred wisdoms, and the beings who embody them are brought into the presence of the initiates/patients. The master of ceremonies of the rite, a lama or chanter, helps the initiates invoke the timeless ideal into their personal circles as they enter into deep identification with the wisdom energies of their sacred role models, the tutelary deities. This identification is reinforced and channeled in such an effective manner by the master of ceremonies that a true transformation of the individual's self-image and attitude about his or her reality can readily take place. At this point in the ritual journey begins what may be called the return. Having abided in the ideal reality of the tutelaries, helped along by the chants, prayers, and ritual acts, the participants must now direct their newfound state of body-mind toward the affairs of the real world. In order to allow enlightenment or beauty to unfold in one's daily life, the initiate needs to be carefully released into the real world from the ideal state of the rite. The Tle'eji Ha'atal, or Night Way, and the Tunki Korlo, or Tunkor Wankor, the Wheel of Time Kalachakra empowerment, are each in their own way consummate Navajo and Tibetan procedures for empowering individuals to exist effectively in their ordinary realities. Little wonder that both rites of transformation have essentially identical ritual scripts. We will now examine each in detail. The Nightway Rite. When people have a ceremony done for them, it relaxes their body, it relaxes their mind, it, you might say, takes them into another world for a while, and if they give their full attention, they can be healed. Navajo Chanter. The Navajo Sing may be compared to a complex yoga system. Its immediate aim is to restore the patient physically and psychologically. His illness, whatever it may be, is never regarded as being solely organic. This is only its effect. Its cause is a basic disharmony which can be righted in him. Frank Waters. The Nightway, or Tle'eji, is a grand ritual drama linking Earth-surface people with the holy people of the cosmos at large. In so uniting the ordinary and ideal realities, the Nightway is a powerful agent of body-mind healing, and in the frequent appearance of the Navajo's deities, personated by the chanter's assistants, it also serves as the basic rite of initiation into the mysteries of the chantway path through life. The night way is an elaborate affair requiring 9 nights and days, the efforts of scores of people, and, nowadays, a great deal of money and materials. A ceremonial hogan must be built, should one not already be available, and a huge cookhouse, kitchen, and seating area, and dance ground must be provided. All this must be established in an area able to support hundreds of motor vehicles and onlookers during the culminating dance of divinities and humans on the 9th night of the rite. Family and friends of the one sung over, nowadays there often are 2 ones sung over to help defray the cost of the rite, provide food to all, necessary services, and payment to the chanter and his assistants. The process of arranging a nightway begins far in advance of the initial meeting with the prospective chanter. The prospective patient or family member seeks out a diviner, called popularly a diagnostician, to determine the proper rite for treating the body-mind condition. See Appendix 6, Diviners and Divination. People having what might be termed psychic nervous system and sensory disorders, confusion, deafness, eye and vision problems, paralysis, epilepsy, catatonia, and interestingly arthritis, are candidates for a nightway. The cause of illness is the disintegrated condition of the patient's body-mind. Its primal elements and energies, which in turn are linked to holy wind and universal mind, are not in proper order. The patient is out of sorts, is in disharmony with these basics, which otherwise abide in a relationship of beauty in the cosmos at large. To effect the transformation of the body-mind from anti-beauty to beauty requires that the primal stuff of the cosmos be reordered within the patient. The energies that harm the patient must now become the agents of the cure. To effect a total body-mind cure, the patient must come into total identification with the Nightway power beings. The Nightway is special because the full range of tutelary yeis are described in the chants and prayers, and many are personated by masked dancers throughout the long ritual procedure. This greatly aids the process of what Tibetans would call deity yoga. These tutelaries are the same ones who protected and taught the dreamer on his journey, but they are also powerful, even dangerous. The dreamer did not fall into a seizure at the lodge of the fringe-mouth yeis, thus identifying with and taking on their powers is crucial to the cure, but this communion must be carefully orchestrated, since their powers can both cure and create the disorder. To portray vividly the gravity of the condition, the allusion to a spell having been cast is used in the rite's prayers and songs. Yet the spell is in fact cast upon the patient by the ordinarily benevolent tutelary deities. Why? Because they are not good or bad, they are powerful, power-filled. They are the powers, the mind energies of the cosmos with which one must maintain, or be restored to, a relationship of beauty. Interestingly, the spell is never clearly spelled out in the narrative of the dreamer's spiritual journey or in the chants and prayers. This is because the spell is the condition of cosmos disorder, the anti-beauty of Hoxho. To make the spell material is to create a physical cause. Rather, the cure comes not from defining and attacking a cause, but in identifying with an ideal state in which no such cause can possibly exist. Structure of the rite. Underlying the Nightway's complex mosaic of rituals and symbols is the simple and balanced code. Code of the Nightway. First group of night days, 4 nights, unraveling rituals. 4 days, sweats and offerings to holy people. Function, purify ordinary reality and body-mind. Communion night. Invoke the power and presence of the holy people and greet the dawn through a night-long midpoint ritual feast. Function, unify the real with the ideal. Second group of night days, 4 days, sand painting rituals and greet dawn of the 9th day. 4 nights, initiations and basket drum songs, includes Ye Ibichei dance during last night. Function, achieve the ideal reality, then return to the real world. Since the body-mind is in a state of general disorder, it must first be purified of the effects of the spell of elemental imbalance. During the first several nights and days of the rite is measured in nights rather than days. Much attention is placed on purifying the body-mind. Its purification is done through two complementary procedures: unraveling rituals during the first 4 nights and sweat lodge treatments during the first 4 days. Unraveling rituals cut away the spell of cosmic disorder during procedures mainly oriented to the mind. Small hoops of bent fresh sumac branches tied together with hand-spun cotton thread and adorned with sprigs of wild herbs are made. Also prepared for the purpose are several of the chanter's sacred buckskin masks of the Yeis. These are rolled into cylinders and tied with the same homespun yarn. The cotton cord is slip-knotted around each hoop and mask. Both forms serve as power wands, known as Wultra'ad bundles. They are agents for unraveling the spell from the one sung over's body-mind. In their use, the patient sits along with the chanter in the western quadrant of the Hogan. Meanwhile, having painted their bodies with white clay, several of the assistants put on buckskin masks of particular yeis. They await the beginning of the unraveling chants outside in the cold night air. To personate the tutelaries, usually including Talking God, a female consort goddess, and various other yeis, one must have taken the Nightway's initiation at least 4 times. As the songs begin, the masked beings burst into the Hogan one at a time, uttering their distinctive cries. Each takes a wand from the chanter's assistant and proceeds to touch vitality points on the one sung over's body, the soles of the feet, knees, outstretched hands, chest, back, shoulders, cheeks or temples, ears, eyes, crown of the head. Then, putting the wand at the person's mouth, the Yei pulls away the string, opening the Wultra'ad bundle, and with one last lengthy, piercing cry, backs its way out of the doorway and into the eastern realm. All the while, the Hogan is filled with continuous chants detailing the unraveling of the spell. The unknotting of the string and pulling it from the one sung over his mouth represents the pulling away of the psychophysical disorder from the breath and wind soul of the patient. The same process is used during successive evenings. After each sequence of unraveling is completed, Talking God enters with another kind of protection wand in the form of a 4-sided, collapsible wooden talisman opening into the shape of a square. Talking God places it around the seated person's body, bringing it gradually upward until it is lifted over the one sung over's head. This provides an envelope of protection as it lifts the spell of imbalance. Other rituals for severing negativity may be used at the discretion of the chanter. In one, spruce boughs are piled all over the patient's body, and a plated evergreen bark mask is placed on the face. Then, wielding large prehistoric flint knives, masked embodiments of the warrior twins enter and energetically cut away the bows and mask from the one sung over, and with them the disorder's spell. Another related ritual has the one sung over wearing the buckskin mask of a generalized male or female yei, according to the patient's sex. In one such ritual that I witnessed, the mask was attached via a buckskin thong to a 2-foot-high spruce sapling embedded in the sandy floor of the Hogan. The masked apprentices, holy people to the one sung over's mythically transformed eyes, suddenly pulled the sapling out of the ground, carrying with it the mask from the one sung over's face. Thus the spell was lifted forcibly and quite suddenly from the patient's body-mind. In order to invoke the aid of the most powerful divinities and to help the one sung over to identify with the procedure, offerings are made to various agents of purification. These keta'ans are little wooden cylinders cut from small tree branches. They are carved into male and female versions, taking care to use the growing end as the heads. They then are painted according to the color schemes of the 4 directions and laid in pairs to the 4 directions on a bed of cornmeal in a ritual basket, just as the pairs of yeis were positioned on the cross of logs in the dreamer's vision. The keta'an offerings are given one by one to the masked apprentices, who take them outside after each unraveling episode and leave them for divinities such as the thunderers of the 4 directions. These all-powerful divinities molded the twins into potent warriors, and it is their kind of protection that is now needed. Whereas the unraveling rituals attend mainly to the mental aspects of purifying the body-mind, the sweat lodge rituals during the first 4 days emphasize the one sung over's bodily component, but do include the mental as well. The lodge is a makeshift conical earthen enclosure made specifically for that day's purpose each afternoon, then destroyed once that day's procedure has ended. On the first day, it is built to the east of the ceremonial hogan, then to the south, west, and north on the following days. The sweat lodge is adorned with sand-painted rainbow and lightning beings, a male and female version of each focused together in each design. Fused together in each design. It is surrounded by 12 wooden stakes adorned with eagle and wild turkey feathers. These prayer plumes provide a ring of protection to the sweat house, the same type of enclosure in which the warrior twins purified themselves after doing battle with the monsters. The number of plumes, 12, relates to the natural numerology of the cosmos, such as the 12 lunar months, while the eagle feathers symbolize the 12 eagle feathers on the headdress of Talking God, which are in turn the white rays of the dawn. The one sung over solemnly walks with the chanter to the sweat lodge and crawls in, as the chanter and his apprentices sing the following song. The one sung over's body is treated with the purifying dry heat generated by the red-hot rocks within. The heat engenders a transcendent state of mind in which the words of the song help the person to deeply identify with the ideal unity of Talking God and Calling God. This I call with, now Talking God I walk with. These are his feet I walk with. These are his limbs I walk with. This is his body I walk with. This is his mind I walk with. This is his voice I walk with. These are his 12 white plumes I walk with. Beauty before me I walk with. Beauty behind, above, below, all around me I walk with. In old age the trail of beauty I walk with. It is I walk with. Repeat for Calling God in second stanza. Nightway Sweat Lodge chant excerpt. In one sweat lodge ritual that I observed, the one sung over had spent 10 to 15 minutes in the hot enclosure. On exiting the lodge, the patient was approached by a masked Talking God and female Yei, who, screaming their respective calls, applied bundles of herbs to her vitality points. The herbs were tied with unraveling cords, with which the embodied divinities pulled away the anti-beauty from the aged person's body-mind. During the first half of the Nightway rite, the main process is one of purification. It prepares the body-mind for its return to healthfulness, holiness. But this is only the first step. The one sung over now needs to fully enter the ideal primordial reality of the Dian-empowered holy people. To become so empowered, it is necessary to physically and mentally recreate their state of being. It is necessary to become the dreamer, who in turn becomes one of the holy people. Donald Sandner calls the stages of becoming empowered by and as the holy people evocation, identification, and transformation. They are aspects of a single process that forms the heart of the many activities encountered during the final portion of the Nightway rite. The process is begun on the fourth night with a pivotal ritual for evoking the presence of the holy people. It is a grand ritual banquet of food, song, and prayer that goes on until the first light of the dawn. With characteristic understatement, the Navajos call this all-night ceremony a no-sleep.